meditation and different practices that we teach here, Buddhist practices, mindfulness practices, can be really helpful for maintaining some kind of groundedness. Or even if we don't maintain it, to at least see, oh, I've lost it, and that's a big difference than being lost in it. And that's kind of a key. Simple thing I want to share before I go into more detail is that we can get lost in our challenges and our agitations, our disappointments, our expectations, and I'm not going to name any of them, but we all have them. And we live in challenging times, always, really, and it seems now is like turned up a little bit. So, but the idea of seeing them, it's like, oh, there is a challenge, is a lot different than being consumed by it. Because once we see that we are in a challenge or agitation, then we're no longer lost in it. It might not be the answer for, like, finding complete peace and equanimity and joy, but it is the beginning, and there's so many practices that can be offered through meditation and everyday meditative mindfulness practice in everyday life that can help us find groundedness and build resilience. And in the original instructions attributed to the historic Buddha, there's a teaching called the Four Foundations of Mindfulness. So just presuming there may be some beginners here. And in the very first couple paragraphs of that instruction of how to meditate, how to find mindfulness, it says, it's translated, I'll give you a paraphrase, that this is a training. That's a training. And it's a training to know when you're breathing, to know when you're sitting, to know when you're standing. And so there's this, it's kind of simple. It's like, oh, to train knowing. Like, oh, I know that I am sitting. I know that. So it's a little bit, instead of being on autopilot, we actually have a little bit more knowing, a grounded knowing in even the simplest thing, like breathing. And breathing is tied to our state of mind, so it's a really great place to anchor or to follow. It's like taking a pulse. It's like, oh yeah, I'm breathing a little tightly, I'm breathing a little heavily. I'm about to open that bill or that email, or I just watched something, or you can feel like, oh, my breathing. Like if you tune into your breathing, as opposed to maybe, oh, I'm breathing easy. Oh, that's nice. And that the breath is really tied to our emotions and to our mind states. And so it's also a place where when we're on autopilot, it can get really tight and constricted. But it also is a place that we have this voluntary ability to work with our breath, that we can like take slower, relaxing breaths. And so in that original instruction in the Four Foundations of Mindfulness, the first couple paragraphs, that this is a training to know when you're breathing, to know when you're sitting, and then it says it's a training to calm the body. It's a training to calm the body formation. Well, the whole practice isn't about calming, but the idea of being calmer means that we have more stability and stableness, and it's written right there from what I've seen, over and over. It is a training, and so because it's a training or a practice doesn't mean that we're going to be perfect at it, and so it's seeing maybe our relationship with knowing, like, oh, I know that I'm breathing. How simple is that? I know that I'm sitting, but the funny thing is, as simple as it is, it's like that knowing will like really fade. It's like, oh, where am I now? But then, anyone else have that experience? So the knowing fades. That's simple as, I'm just going to follow my breath, and the next thing you know, like 10 minutes, 5 minutes, 1 minute later, it's like, oh. So the knowing, and it's a training to kind of maintain a knowing. But because it's a practice and a training, I think the teachers back then and now know that it's a training and know that it's a practice, and that we don't have to be perfect at it. And that the more that we develop a little bit more presence, a little bit knowing that we're caught in challenges, that we can like step back and say, oh, there's a challenge. And so I did want to invite for people who are new or experienced, something, it's considered a training, but it's also considered cultivation. A term, bhavana, which is from this liturgical language from the historic Buddhist time called Pali, kind of related to Sanskrit in India. There's this word bhavana that they used to mean meditation, but it also means to cultivate. So they like kind of borrowed this word from farming that we can cultivate. So we're cultivating this training, cultivating this knowing to be present. And it's also knowing when our minds and our emotions kind of get a little bit sidetracked during meditation, everyday life, so that there's maybe a little bit of, in our practice, which we're about to do, that there might be a little bit of like self-criticism or agitation, or our imagination can time travel to the future and it can time travel to the past. And so once we notice that, it's like we know that our mind has wandered. We come back to the breath and the body, because the body cannot time travel. For those who don't know me, I'm an animation special effects artist working in feature animation in Los Angeles. So I really love this, like, oh yeah, this time travel. There's so many movies and stories about time travel these days, but the body cannot time travel. So if you can remember that, it's like, oh, why they see coming back to the breath and coming back to the body? Because just by even feeling our butts on the cushion or our breath, it's like, oh yeah, I'm grounded, I'm anchored here in the present. Without any thought, just to feel that the body cannot time travel. And then to know, oh yeah, there's my mind traveling to the future, to the past, which is a beautiful thing. We need both to be part of this world. And but during practice, it can be something that could even lead us to self-criticism or planning a lot or remembering a lot. And it can be very pleasant to be present. And when we do have those moments, it can also settle us to be more calm and stable and steady. And it can also permeate throughout our life, through our busy days, to have those calm, stable, steady moments. And so on that introduction, inviting us to a practice together, a little bit of training of establishing mindfulness. And if there are these challenging moments, I also want to share that it's perfectly fine just to pause and know, instead of continuing back to the breath or really striving to try to get back on some track, it's okay just to do a moment of compassion. You can even put your hand on your heart or your belly, or just think, give yourself a moment of compassion. Like, oh yeah, this is normal to have the mind wander or to have emotions rise. A little love and kindness, a little compassion, just for a few breaths or a minute, and then come back to the breath. It's like perfectly fine, because that's cultivating. You're cultivating self-kindness. You're cultivating compassion. You're facing what's called these mental objects that arise during practice. So it is part of the original instructions to cultivate and to move away from the obstacles of being present. So love and kindness, compassion, along with your breathing. So if you'd like to close your eyes or just gaze a few feet in front of you, take a posture that feels supportive and intentional, one that will intentionally or keep you a little more focused, and even feeling into the posture, the body, which is, as I mentioned, it does not time travel. So what does it feel like to sit? Just simply sit and be present. Feeling your posture that's perhaps like a balance without making much effort. That we just sit here kind of in a balance, being held by our chair or cushion. It's all in relationship to the gravity that holds us. Kind of stable and steady. It's a reference point or an anchor to the present moment that we can come back to over and over. And that the posture can have an attitude, like an attitude of being awake, a little bit of confidence, or an attitude that feels right for you. So to know that you're sitting, know that you're sitting. And to know that you're breathing. The whole body is breathing. Now, what does that feel like? Even notice, how are you breathing? Is it maybe a little bit tight, a little tense? If you notice that, feel free to relax. Nice, breathing easy, like a belly breathing. If you'd like to take 3 or more deeper breaths, relaxing on the out breath, breathing easy. And also inviting you to notice if there's any area where you might be able to relax some tension, like just scanning your body along with the breath. Maybe in the forehead, starting with the forehead, around the eyes. Sometimes we feel, when we notice a little tension, we can relax the face and the jaw, the lips. Any tension we might be holding around the face, the neck, the shoulders. Again, the torso and the breathing. Just noticing any tension that you could let go of. And down the arms to the hands. Sometimes we hold the hands a little bit tight, unknowingly. Just relaxing the hands, the arms. And befriending yourself, like just kindly relaxing, knowing that you're breathing, knowing that you're sitting. Notice that there's a place of caring too, that we can bring this self-care. Wherever you feel care, just simply caring, even a little thimbleful of being kind and caring to yourself, and knowing that we're all doing this together. We can care for each other. And if you notice your mind starting to go into conversation and thinking, that's perfectly natural. You can even just note, just make a little note, like, oh, there's thinking. Or thinking, just the word thinking. Once that note and knowing occurs, we're no longer caught in the thinking. We change relationship, even just for a few seconds. Coming back to the breath and the body. And this may happen over and over. It's just our own minds are typically trying to befriend us in some way. And we could just note, be kind to our thinking mind. Come back to sitting, breathing, and knowing. As we're settling in more, just offering this visual, something you might explore, feeling into your posture as if it's like a mountain. It's firmly rooted, the posture is steady and stable. The legs and the buttocks grounded to the earth like a mountain. Maybe imagining that the sides of our body, our arms, are a little bit like a slope of a mountain. And that our head is like a peak of a mountain. Like a breathing mountain, sitting and breathing, knowing that you're sitting. So there's a stability, stable, that we can come back to at any time. And if there are thoughts, a little bit like the weather that can pass over one of these big mountains that we see here in our area. A thought can be like a cloud. Comes and goes. But we still can feel our mountain sitting. It could be like a little bit like a rainstorm. It comes and goes. even knowing that these different weather patterns we may not have any choice over, but we can see them. Know that they rise and pass away. We may also feel emotions rise and pass away. And like a mountain, there could be these inner well springs of care, kindness. That we can also tune into. As a mountain, we sit stable and steady. So we'll be transitioning to the end of this practice. Just refreshing awareness of the posture, knowing that you're sitting, knowing that you're breathing. Perhaps with an awareness that has a lens of kindness, caring.
Hi, I'm Franz with Long Beach Meditation. Your gracious generosity makes this programming possible. If you found this video to be of value, please consider making a donation here. If you'd like to watch more videos like this, click here. And if you want to stay in touch with Long Beach Meditation, click here to subscribe. Thank you, and may all beings be happy.